Free agency is supposed to be the great equalizer in the NFL by giving players the right to the market. They put in the production and outperform contracts year after year, and then they finally get paid what they're actually worth. Only, it doesn't always quite work that way. Because in a league where the franchise tag exists specifically to trap elite players, where rolling guarantees are the norm and fully guaranteed money is a fight to even get on the table, getting to free agency healthy, happy, and at market value is genuinely hard. And sometimes a team doesn't just make it hard, they make it personal. And sometimes it gets real ugly. So today, here are 10 times a team completely screwed a player over in free agency. Steve Smith Sr., WR, Carolina Panthers, 2014. 13 years. 13 years is how long Steve Smith spent building the Carolina Panthers franchise into something worth watching. Every record in their books had his name on it. 12,197 receiving yards, 836 catches, 67 touchdowns. This man was the Carolina Panthers. And on March 13th of 2014, they called him and told him that he was done. A move driven by GM Dave Gettleman's desire to change the team culture and a belief that Smith had lost his top speed. Yeah, sure, Smith was 34 years old and salary cap casualties are not uncommon in the NFL, but I mean, come on, he was a legend in Charlotte. Shortly thereafter, he signed with Baltimore for 3 years and $11.5 million and promised Carolina there would be blood and guts everywhere when he came back. And in week 4 of the 2014 season, that man delivered. 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 38-10 Ravens rout of the same franchise that had discarded him. That scoreboard said everything that words couldn't. To be clear about what the Panthers did here, this was not a situation where Smith was in decline. He had caught 64 passes for 745 yards in 2013 at age 34. He was still producing, even on a terrible team. And really, man, it was about the way that Gettleman went about all of this that made it all the more disrespectful. I mean, come on, you don't cut the all-time franchise leader for cap flexibility and then expect him to leave quietly. And Steve Smith absolutely made sure of that. Bo Jackson, RB, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 1986. What the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did to Bo Jackson was something different than just regular old-fashioned market manipulation. They didn't game the system. No, they just lied to a 23-year-old kid and burned his college baseball eligibility to the ground on purpose. A month before the 1986 NFL Draft, Buccaneers owner Hugh Culverhouse, an Alabama alum, by the way, arranged for a private jet to fly Jackson to Tampa for a physical and a facility visit. At the time, Jackson was in the middle of his senior baseball season at Auburn and had the good sense to ask about eligibility. Told explicitly that the trip had been cleared by the NCAA and the SEC. Yeah, it had not been cleared by anyone. The SEC had a rule that barred athletes from being professionals in one sport while still amateurs in another. The moment Jackson took that jet and those benefits from an NFL franchise, his college baseball eligibility was gone. Just like that, senior season over. Jackson has said for decades now that he believes that this was deliberate. And I think the consensus is that Culverhouse saw a generational athlete with a legitimate path to a two-sport career and decided the only way to force him into football was to take the other option off the table. His baseball coach at Auburn confirmed that nobody from either camp mentioned the trip to him beforehand. Had he known about the SEC rule, he said, he would have told Jackson immediately. Needless to say, Bo was furious, and he told the Buccaneers not to bother drafting him because he would not suit up. But of course, Tampa Bay drafted him anyways. First overall, no less. Jackson then proceeded to turn down a 5-year, $7.6 million contract, the richest rookie deal in league history at the time, and instead signed with the Kansas City Royals for $1.7 million over 3 years. He said in a recent interview that he played baseball for one reason: because he was not going to go to Tampa. The Raiders drafted him in the 7th round the following year and told him that he could play both sports. And, well, the rest is history. He became the most famous two-sport athlete in American history and one of the most iconic figures that the sports world has ever seen. Le'Veon Bell, RB, Pittsburgh Steelers, 2017-2018. The Steelers told Le'Veon Bell straight to his face that they would get his contract done. The day after a divisional playoff loss to Jacksonville, Bell was pulled into an office. Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin told him that they'd tag him for 2018, but that this time they'd get the long-term extension figured out. Bell later said that that conversation was the whole reason that he even agreed to take another tag without a fight. And, well, as we all know now, they did not get the long-term extension figured out. Instead, they came back with a 5-year, $70 million deal, but only $20.5 million being guaranteed in year 1, with everything else riding on rolling guarantees. For a running back who'd absorbed 321 carries in a single season and was functionally their most important offensive player, that is just crazy. Pittsburgh basically just said that, hey, we're going to use your body until it breaks and hand you as little security as we can and just get away with it. Bell sat out the entire 2018 season. He left $14.5 million on the table. He cost himself a year of prime production. Signed with the Jets for 4 years and $52.5 million the following spring. Did the holdout backfire eventually? Yeah, sure. But what Pittsburgh asked him to absorb on the field for what they put on the table in return was never even close to fair. And everyone in that building knew it. Trent Williams, OT, Washington Redskins, 2019. 2013, Trent Williams noticed a growth on his head. He told Washington's medical staff about it, and they told him it was a cyst, something minor and nothing to really worry about. Well, he kept complaining, and they told him the same thing over and over and over again, reportedly for 6 whole years. Then in the 2019 offseason, Washington finally sent him to a specialist, and they found out that he had a rare, aggressive soft tissue cancer attached to his skull. The surgery to remove it required 350 stitches and 75 staples. The incision was the diameter of a softball. By the time doctors got to it, they told Williams that they'd caught it within weeks of it metastasizing through his brain. Trust was completely broken, and Williams held out the entire 2019 season. Then the team used a loophole to avoid paying him. Because he failed a physical due to discomfort with his helmet from the surgery and was placed on the non-football injury reserve list, they were able to withhold payment for the rest of the season. And they refused to trade him for months on end. Finally, he was mercifully traded to San Francisco in 2020, where he reclaimed his status as one of the best linemen in the game. So, not exactly a clean free agency screw over here, but such dirty business that it simply had to be included. Reggie White, DE, Philadelphia Eagles, 1993. Before the modern franchise tag, teams used a franchise player designation that functioned the same way, a unilateral veto on a player's freedom, and the Eagles used it to hold Reggie White in place for years. One of the greatest defensive players in history, sitting at below market value because the league had designed a system specifically to limit what players could earn. White helped lead the legal fight that cracked the whole thing open. His involvement was central to the 1993 settlement that finally brought real free agency to the NFL. And when the market finally opened, Philadelphia showed up with an offer that didn't match what he was worth. Wasn't long until the Packers came calling, and White signed a 4-year, $17 million deal in Green Bay. He won a Super Bowl, he became one of the 5 greatest players who ever lived. And Philadelphia got nothing. The Eagles spent years blocking the man's freedom, treated the moment his leverage arrived like a formality, and watched him walk to a championship without him. This set the template for every franchise tag dispute that followed after. Kirk Cousins, QB, Washington Redskins, 2016-2017. The first year, he made $19.9 million. The second year, $23.9 million. He became the first quarterback in NFL history to play consecutive seasons under the franchise tag. 2 years of holding the franchise hostage with his own production, while Washington kept pretending their offers were serious. Their best long-term offer, by multiple accounts, would have only guaranteed him 1 more year behind what the transition tag would have paid automatically. That is not a contract, that is just arithmetic. Rescued them from the RG3 disaster and led Washington back to relevant football, and the team came back with half measures every single time. Fortunately for Cousins, he was able to escape the grasps of Washington. He walked to Minnesota in 2018 and signed the first fully guaranteed quarterback contract in NFL history. 3 years, $84 million, every penny of it guaranteed. Not too shabby. Earl Thomas, safety, Seattle Seahawks, 2018. Earl Thomas told the Seahawks exactly what he wanted: an extension or a trade. Something that acknowledged the way he played football, which was, by any reasonable measure, at an all-pro level for 8 straight seasons. He published a letter during his 2018 holdout that put it plainly: if you're risking your body to deliver all this value, you deserve some assurance that the organization will take care of you if you get hurt. Seattle would not budge. They also reportedly had a chance to trade him to Dallas for a second-round pick and passed because they didn't want to help the Cowboys before the two teams played in Week 3. Thomas came back from the holdout because missing weekly game checks of $500,000 just wasn't sustainable. Week 4 against Arizona, he broke his leg on the same limb that he'd fractured 2 years earlier. As the cart took him off the field, he gave the Seahawks sideline the middle finger. It was not a complicated message. He went to Baltimore for 4 years and $55 million the following spring. A pretty good deal, but a fraction of what he would have gotten had he not gotten hurt. Steve McNair, QB. Tennessee Titans, 2006. On April 3rd of 2006, Steve McNair showed up to the Tennessee Titans facility for off-season workouts. A team trainer told him to leave. Not like in a meeting, not with a discussion about the future. McNair, the franchise's all-time winningest quarterback, their co-MVP from 2003, the man who had dragged that organization to a Super Bowl appearance and given them the best decade of football in franchise history, was told to leave the building because Tennessee didn't want to be liable for his $23.46 million cap number if he got hurt on their property. Yeah, that's right. They kept asking him to restructure his deal every single year to create cap room, inflating his cap figure each time. So when the bill finally came due, they literally locked their franchise quarterback out of the building. McNair justifiably filed and won a grievance against them, as an arbitrator ruled that a player under contract has a right to work out at his team's facility. The fact that this had to go all the way to arbitration at all, I think, says everything about the way the Titans ran their organization at the time. In any case, he was eventually traded to Baltimore, where he led the Ravens to a 13-3 record in 2006, making the Pro Bowl at the age of 33. Drew Brees, QB, San Diego Chargers, 2006. Our younger fans may not remember this, but Drew Brees suffered one of the most devastating shoulder injuries in NFL history in the final game of the 2005 season. A 360-degree labrum tear with a deep partial rotator cuff tear. Brees later said that he wasn't even sure he could put on a football uniform again. Oh, it wasn't a huge shock when San Diego's offer that offseason came in rather low. But still, this felt really wrong, like some dirty business. It was 4 years, $50 million, but with only a couple million in year one guaranteed. Which, honestly, for this player was kinda wild. Realistically, it was backup quarterback money dressed up in a big headline number and buried in the fine print. Now, to be fair, the skepticism about Brees' prospects of playing good football again were not isolated in San Diego. Only 2 other teams even called. Miami had their doctors examine the shoulder for hours and ran the other direction. New Orleans and Sean Payton, on the other hand, sat with Brees for 2 hours watching film, talking scheme, and never once mentioning the injury. Brees signed 6 years and $60 million with the Saints, where he went on to win a Super Bowl and become one of the NFL's most decorated passers, while the Chargers continued to toil away in mediocrity. Kirk Cousins, QB, Atlanta Falcons, 2024. Believe it or not, but Kirk Cousins has actually been done dirty twice. Yeah, Atlanta handed Kirk Cousins a 4-year, $180 million contract in March of 2024. $100 million fully guaranteed, the largest commitment in franchise history. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to feel that bad for him. But 6 weeks later, they used the 8th overall pick in the draft on Michael Penix Jr. Yeah. So the Falcons gave a quarterback $100 million in guaranteed money, and then, before he even threw a single pass in the regular season, told the world that they had already found his replacement on the way. The optics alone were staggering. The actual football logic was somehow even worse, though. By midseason, the Falcons benched Cousins for Penix, a rookie who wasn't ready, and a situation nobody in that building had thought through properly. Granted, the team screwed themselves over in the process, but needless to say, Cousins was not thrilled either. But which of these situations do you think was the most egregious? Which team handled their player the worst? Are there any we missed that should have been on this list? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, then hey, clicking that like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea, because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.